This is the Virginia, a 230-foot-long paddle-wheel steamer built in Cincinnati for trips along the Ohio River. The vessel had 60 luxury staterooms, all of which housing 2 berths with fine linen, beveled mirrors, and the most luxurious garbage the 1890s could offer. The ship was notably luxurious, and stood as a sign that great things were to come for passengers in the shipping trade. Launched in 1896, her maiden voyage attracted the attention of thousands of people along the Ohio River, with the city of Huntington even providing her with a cannon salute. This has prompted my own life goal to be for the city of Huntington to provide me with a cannon salute as well. The Virginia was fully lit with electric lights from bow to stern, and soon the Virginia and her sister, the Queen City, were the most profitable ships on the Ohio River. The general manager and visionary behind these spectacular vessels, Jackman Taylor Stockdale, was ecstatic at the incredible success of his steamboats, glowing with pride, until he caught a case of death less than a year later and a Pittsburghian by the name of James Henderson took the reins. In 1909, competition on the Ohio River was tough, and with the rapid expansion of railroads across the South and the Midwest, it was becoming more and more of a challenge for Henderson to keep up. The Ohio River also wasn't doing him any favors, as it was tremendously shallow in the summer and unpredictable throughout the rest of the year. In 1909, the Virginia and the Queen City were tied up for the summer in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, expecting to be back with the heavy rains of early autumn raising the Ohio River. These rains, however, didn't come in September, nor October, not November either. You see where this is headed? It wasn't until January of the following year when the Queen City was finally able to leave Pittsburgh, this time en route to New Orleans for its highly profitable trip to Mardi Gras. The journey was a mess, they should have expected that, and her hull took tons of damage from grounding and ice. She was not in operable conditions. The Virginia was gonna have to pick up the slack, and was sent to grab all of the Pittsburgh traffic in place of her sister. Weirdly, while loading passengers to go to Pittsburgh, the second officer noticed 2 cross-eyed men boarding, which apparently was a bad omen according to riverboat superstition. They left the city and moved down the Ohio River fast, trying to outrun the receding waters. Come nightfall of March 5th, the vessel was leaving Ravenswood to head 7 miles upstream to Willow Grove to drop off a single passenger and some drunk dockhands. Afterward, they planned to continue on their pre-scheduled route. They docked in Willow Grove over an area that's usually a dry field, at the moment being part of the river due to the heavy rains, and after unloading, the bridge brilliantly determined that the current would carry the ship out of the channel instead of the crew attempting to navigate out themselves. This was stupid. The ship was in fact carried by the stream, but instead of a smooth aquatic ride, they heard a grating sound and looked down to see them grounded in a shallow, flooded cornfield. Come morning time, they got a better look at the situation. They repeatedly attempted to unground her, obviously failing, and in a few days the water level dropped so much that they were now sitting in a dry cornfield of the Williamson family farm, half a mile from the Ohio River. That's 0.8 kilometers for all you non-American commies out there. The passengers were unloaded to be sent on the B&O rail line to still make their journey. But as for what to do with the Virginia, no one was exactly sure. It attracted a ton of attention from the locals and would for weeks. However, the story somehow gets a bit weirder. Remember that Henderson guy from earlier? He hired the John Icklea Jr. Company, a group notorious for moving large structures, to get the boat back on the Ohio. What's particularly curious is that while digging out the area under the hull, they uncovered broken tools and pots, discovering later that they had stumbled upon ancient Indian artifacts. Not only that, archaeologists soon arrived and discovered skeletons in shallow graves, believed to be Virginian militia officers who died retreating from the Battle of Point Pleasant in 1774, some 136 years earlier. Some people speculated the grounding of the ship was the fulfillment of a prophecy made by the Shawnee Indian chief Cornstalk, who was executed in 1777 with his son at Fort Randolph while trying to make peace with the Virginians. In his dying breath, he said, "You have murdered by my side my young son. For this may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land." The steamboat was grounded in the open field at the same time Halley's Comet was visible and could be seen from the wreck. Despite all of these insane developments, Farmer Williamson was still pretty pissed about his cornfield being butchered and demanded $500 cash as recompense from Henderson himself. The teams continued to raise the boat from the field and slowly managed to push it to the bank, moving about 20 feet per hour all the way until they grounded it on the gravel bank. It was not moving. The John Icklea Jr. Company said they could move it into the river with a little more force and elbow grease, but in its current position, it was in a bit of a difficult spot, so it would cost Henderson extra cash, money that Henderson simply didn't have. By June, she had sat there for months, and when the waters finally rose again, she was carried into the stream at last, finally being towed back to Pittsburgh. Not even 2 weeks later, because of the falling river, it had to be tied up for the summer. What a cute little story. So, what happened next? What happened to our protagonist, Henderson? Well, he was taken to court by the John Icklea Jr. Company for not paying his fees, but Henderson's defense was that it was an act of God that raised the boat into the river, not the work of the company. The court did not side with Henderson, and ultimately his riverboat company would be dissolved. Now as for the Virginia, she traded owners a few times, ran routes up and down the Mississippi, grounded here and there, ended up as a carnival attraction, and was finally scrapped in 1930. It's funny to think that Betty White was alive when this ship existed. In 1975, a near-exact replica was built in New Orleans called the Natchez, and still exists to this day. I'd like to thank Yamcha Kippur for the recommendation for this video. I had no idea that it would lead me down such an incredible rabbit hole. I'd also like to thank CDO Studio for accepting one of my own suggestions on his own ship history channel. Link to him down below. So what did we learn? There's a reason for everything, and sometimes if that reason seems like unfairness, in actuality it's ancient Indian curses.